Ladies and gentlemen, please notice that exits are conveniently located at the front and rear of this auditorium. When leaving the theater, we suggest that the exit at the front of the auditorium will allow you easier access to the parking areas. Thank you.
They know the ins and outs of everywhere we're going. They will protect you. Horses, run! And they just like, I was like, what?
I feel like I got a great break on a used car. I thought that was a great quote.
This is war, Marcus.
He's going to the bathroom. Are you in his house, you little psycho? Oh, get out of there.
Look, it's a giant womb.
Yeah, no. Hi, I'm Mike Butler.
I'm Mike Field.
And you're listening to the Forgotten Cinema Podcast. Each episode, we highlight a film that for a variety of reasons was forgotten by audiences. Whether it be because a more popular movie was released at the same time, or the film simply didn't catch on with an audience in its initial run. We'll discuss what we love about the movie, or maybe don't love about it, but we'll always recommend you revisit it. If you enjoy our podcast, we want to hear from you. We're on Instagram and Facebook. Find us. Our podcast is available on all platforms with a backlog of over 150 episodes for your listening pleasure.
And like that, season 13 comes to an end. How's it going?
It's going okay. You know, I'm just getting ready to celebrate our end of the season party, or the typical rager that we always throw.
I don't think I get invited to those. Is something that happens?
You didn't get the invites?
No, I did not.
Oh, I'll look into that. I'll have my people call your people.
But I'm sorry, Mr. Butler. You're going to have to run again.
Everybody runs.
That's right. We're doing Minority Report. I know. It's not forgotten, Mike. It's not forgotten. We get it. Well, screw you. We think it is. Based on the story by famed science fiction writer Philip K. Dick, Minority Report is an action detective thriller set in Washington, D.C. in 2054, where people utilize a psychic technology to arrest and convict murderers before they commit their crime. Pre-crime, basically. Tom Cruise plays the head of this pre-crime unit and is himself accused of the future murder of a man he hasn't even met.
What?
I don't even know this guy. I'm not going to kill him. I don't even know. This is whatever. We're doing Minority Report.
Whatever. We're just doing it.
Minority Report has a runtime of 145 minutes. That's right. 2.5 hours. Oh boy. Rated PG-13. Production budget of $102 million. Came out on Friday, June 21st, 2002. So big time summer release. Opening weekend, it did $35 million, domestic $132, and worldwide $358 million. So pretty good.
Ooh.
You don't think that's pretty good?
No, that's pretty good.
All right.
Yeah.
Production company was 20th Century Fox, DreamWorks Pictures, Amblin Entertainment, and Blue Tulip Productions. It was distributed by 20th Century Fox in the United States. And they actually they distributed on the international video market. And DreamWorks did distribution to the international markets and theatrical and the North American video markets. But I believe Paramount owns this now, if I'm not mistaken. I think they purchased this in their library. Also, I know this is the first film that Spielberg did with 20th Century Fox. And I know he did the post with 20th Century Fox, but I don't know if he did anything after that. The post was 2017. That's in my head. So I don't know if you've kind of, that's something that people like, that kind of note. I like that note, So I said this came out on the 21st of June and went up against in a wide release Lilo and Stitch and Juwanna Man. Well, I'm a big Lilo and Stitch fan. I am not a big Juwanna Man fan. Also in a limited release, Sunshine State and Dahmer. The 28th of June, you had a wide release of Mr. Deeds and Hey Arnold, the movie. And a limited release of Lovely and Amazing and Pumpkin.
You said the Hey Arnold movie just right, by the way. Good job.
Well, there was an exclamation point.
That's how you're supposed to say it, because that's how she says the title. I didn't know if you'd get that right.
Oh, congrats.
Good
Congrats. A little golf clap for me.
It's a little millennial thing, yeah.
Oh, Christ. On the 14th of June, in a wide release, you had Scooby-Doo. Did I say that right? And Wind Talkers, also The Bourne Identity. And in a limited release that week, you had The Dangerous Lives of Walter Boys, The Emperor's New Clothes, and Gangster #1. Do you know any of these movies that I've talked about?
Wind Talkers is great. Scooby-Doo is great. And what was the other one in between there?
Bourne Identity.
Bourne Identity. Yeah, obviously. Yes.
Do you like Lilo and Stitch, which came out the same week?
I like Lilo and Stitch, but I'm not as into Lilo and Stitch as everybody else.
Lilo and Stitch is good, though.
A lot of people really like Lilo and Stitch. I like Lilo and Stitch.
Lilo and Stitch is good.
Yeah.
No, it's good.
It's not a top 5 for me.
Ooh, top 5 what? Disney films?
Disney films.
You're not counting Pixar?
No, I consider Pixar. Otherwise, it would be all Pixar.
Well, I mean, you're also going up against a large catalog of Disney films.
Yes.
So I mean, I would I think an argument can be made for in terms of Disney films. It's top 5 in the 2000s and the new millennium.
Yeah.
Listen, I like Frozen, but Frozen's overrated.
I prefer Moana far over Frozen.
Well, I prefer Tangled over Frozen. I know.
Tangled is good as well. Moana, I think, is my favorite of the 2000s. Right.
Minority Report was number 1 in its opening weekend, and number 2 was Lilo and Stitch. But Lilo and Stitch sold more tickets, and the reason why it was number 2 is because kids are cheaper.
Yep.
So I thought that was interesting. So I mean, to me, Lilo and Stitch is the number 1. Sold more tickets. That's the number 1.
Yeah.
But I thought that was an interesting
caveat.
Yeah. I thought that was weird.
Because of just amount of money.
Right. So this movie is directed by a relatively unknown director called Steven Spielberg. I don't know if anyone knows who that is.
Thank you for pronouncing that last name because I was getting it wrong.
Yeah, no, I'm not sure if people are aware of his work. He's done a couple films. I mean, they're not nothing. They're not great. Obviously, he's. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm an unapologetic lover of Steven Spielberg. I think he is a fantastic director. I should say that. I should not just director. He's a fantastic storyteller, but I will try not to have this podcast go off the rails again, where I just talk about everything that he's done. He's done the movie The Sugarland Express, which is a movie that we did. Mm-hmm. More recently, he did West Side Story. And I know, obviously, everyone knows he does Indiana Jones 1 through 4. Actually, he's not doing 5. Written by Scott Frank and John Cohen. John Cohen wrote the first or second draft, and Frank just came in and rewrote it. This also has an uncredited rewrite by John August. Frank has been nominated for 2 Oscars, one for Logan and Out of Sight. He also has done The Walk Among the Tombstones. I know that you want to keep putting that on the podcast. I
still want to rewatch it and see if I like it or I don't like
That's
it.
That's what the podcast is for.
Exactly.
And then he also wrote and produced some episodes for Queen's Gambit, the TV show was that Netflix?
Netflix, yeah.
Okay. Yep. John Cohen has really done nothing else other than just Minority Report. The cinematography was Janusz Kaminski, who has been nominated for 7 Oscars. But he won 2, Saving Private Ryan and Schindler's List. Composer was John Williams, not Butler. I asked this of my buddy Adrian today, and he got this answer wrong. How many times has John Williams been nominated for an Academy Award?
Oh, man, it's like a lot. I'm going to say 11.
52.
Oh, wow.
No joke. I actually counted.
That does not surprise me. I mean, wow, but yes.
52. He's nominated for an Oscar 52 times, and he's won 5. He won for Schindler's List, E.T., Star Wars, Jaws, and Fiddler on the Roof.
What I find interesting is the Society of Classical Music Directors or something like that. Basically, all the people that do classical music have declared Jurassic Park as the best soundtrack of the 20th century. And yet that was not one of the ones he won for.
Yeah, well, one of the things I was noticing, so a lot of these credits in here, a lot of Oscar winners are from Saving Private Ryan. And it still bugs me the fact that movie never won Best Picture. I'm sorry. I hated that. I hated that nomination. I like Shakespeare in Love, but I hated that win. Excuse me. I thought Saving Private Ryan was the Academy Award winner.
It took me years to want to watch Shakespeare in Love because of
it was nominated for the reason that that was one of the first years where they were just flooding everybody with screeners, and that really ticked me off. That's why it won, because of marketing. It didn't win, even though I'm in marketing. It didn't win because of the movie. So I'll get off my soapbox. Edited by Michael Kahn, who won an Oscar for Saving Private Ryan, Schindler's List, and Raiders of the Lost Ark. He's been nominated 8 times. Produced by Bonnie Curtis, Jan de Bont, which I'll get into, Gerald Molen, and Walter F. Parks. Curtis has done AI, Artificial Intelligence, Red Eye, and Terminator Dark Fate. Molen has won an Oscar for Schindler's List. He also produced Twister and Days of Thunder. And Parks has produced Project X, the Matthew Broderick one. And The Trigger Effect, which is what we did, and Gladiator, the Russell Crowe Gladiator. Now, do you know about the Jan de Bont notes?
Why don't you tell me about the Jan de Bont?
Okay, here we go. So we're going to dip in some facts here. So Jan de Bont was initially going to direct this film, and Spielberg was producing it. But Spielberg took over because he wanted to work with Tom Cruise. And then after that, Jan de Bont did nothing with the movie, primarily probably because Steven didn't want him to.
Right.
I don't know, Mr. Spielberg, excuse me. And Spielberg has publicly questioned the credit. So I did. Right. Yeah. So that note, but it gets even better, Butler. So here's the note that I copied and pasted. He was going to direct this film, but he had personal problems with Spielberg on a previous film, The Haunting, because Spielberg produced The Haunting. It was a major rift because de Bont felt that Spielberg ruined his film with all the special effects and emphasis on the house itself rather than the film's psychological aspects. So when Spielberg took over this film, he had DeMont agreed not to be involved in the film in any way, and that's why he got the producer credit and got paid for doing nothing. But there's bad blood there, Butler, which I like. I like hearing that.
I don't like The Haunting. And here's the thing. Everyone says Spielberg ghost directed Poltergeist, and Poltergeist is amazing.
He didn't poster. He did not.
But I
didn't.
Listen, that's great. You watched that, but I can't believe that he would have.
I read a book.
I can't believe that he would have ruined The Haunting with Steven Spielberg's involvement.
Spielberg he's
a storyteller. He knows how to tell stories. He wouldn't have made it worse.
When Poltergeist came out, and that was the question, Spielberg took a full-page ad out in Variety, I believe, and said, congratulated Tobe Hooper and said he didn't do it.
Sure.
And he also, that was one of the first films that Spielberg was producing. So he was hands-on. He's hands-on. He's a hands-on producer back then.
Sure.
So he's going to be influenced by that. He's going to do that.
Sure.
He did not direct Poltergeist.
Sure.
Watch Tobe Hooper's other stuff. It's not like Texas Chainsaw Massacre is obviously.
There's nothing like Poltergeist.
It's fantastic, but that's not, Hooper is not Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Hooper is his other stuff. You gotta watch his other stuff. It's very similar to Poltergeist. Watch it. He did not direct Poltergeist.
But I can't see Steven Spielberg being like making the story worse. Although my brother loves The Haunting.
Okay.
My brother doesn't watch many movies.
Your brother's not going to be a guest on the show.
No, he is. He needs to watch more movies.
This movie stars Tom Cruise as John Anderton.
This is our first Tom Cruise movie.
No, it's not. I'm blanking on the Oblivion. That's right. We did Oblivion.
500 other Tom Cruise Collateral.
I wasn't gonna write the movies he was in, and I'm just this
has got to be at least number 6.
What was the other one? We did Oblivion.
We did Oblivion, Collateral.
That's it.
No,
we did other ones.
Yeah.
Wow, we got to really stop doing Tom Cruise films. All right, so he's who Tom Cruise is: Mission Impossible, Rain Man, Risky Business, Taps, Top Gun, and Top Gun Maverick, which I still recommend you go see.
Mm-hmm.
Max von Sydow is in this movie as Lamar Burgess. He is nominated for 2 Oscars, one for Pell the Conqueror and the other for Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close. He's also been in 3 Days of the Condor, a movie we did many, many seasons ago. Mm-hmm. Great film. Great film. Samantha Morton as Agatha. She's been nominated for 2 Oscars as well, one for Sweet and Lowdown and In America. She's also, I didn't realize this, she was in one of the seasons, or maybe she's still on the show, TV's Walking Dead.
Sure.
I guess. I don't know. That's what I got that note.
I do not watch Walking Dead.
I don't either. Colin Farrell as Danny Whitwer. He's from Miami Vice. An episode we did, The Lobster, Tigerland, and he's in Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. Is that what you call it?
Yes.
Okay, there you go. Tim Blake Nelson as Gideon from Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? The Incredible Hulk and Lincoln. Catherine Morris as Laura Clark. I only know her from the TV show Cold Case. She's also in The Contender and Mindhunters. That's a movie. Neil McDonough as Fletcher, or Fletch, as Anderton keeps calling him in this movie.
The douche.
He's in Timeline. Actually, we did that last season.
Yep.
Or this season. Last season. This season we did Timeline. It was after Oblivion.
Yep.
He's in the TV show Boomtown, which I oddly remember, and he's in Captain America: The First Avenger. He is one of the I don't know the name of that crew that is in World War II.
He's Dum Dum Dugan. He's one of his.
He's in that. Patrick. This can't be this guy's real name. Patrick Kilpatrick. Like, that can't be his real name. That's got to be a stage name. He plays he's in Death Warrant, Under Siege 2, Dark Territory, and Last Man Standing. He plays the guy that keeps trying to give Anderton his hat. He's liking the fact that he's going to get him. He's like, yeah. Daniel London as Wally. Wally is the creepo who takes care of the the precogs in this.
You're back, Daddy. Wally's back.
Yeah, calm down, Wally. He's in Patch Adams, Rent, Big Trouble, and he's there's a lot of stage performances. Peter Stormare as Solomon Eddy, who has the cold when he's doing surgery. He's in Lost World, Jurassic Park 2, Fargo, John Wick Chapter 2, and Constantine. And then Lois Smith as Iris Hinneman, Twister, Ladybird, and The Nice Guys. And then you might have, I did not see him in this. And Ari Gross plays Howard Marks, the guy in the beginning that I keep wanting to say Wand, but the guy in the beginning that they capture. Jim Rash is in this. He plays a technician. I don't know where he was.
Jim Rash is there?
Yeah.
Really?
And Frank Grillo's in this. He's one of the pre-crime cops. I could not find him.
There's like 7 of those guys. But
There's also a couple cameos. Cameron Crowe plays the guy who sees Anderson on the bus and looks at him.
Okay.
Yep. And because he's reading the paper. Paul Thomas Anderson is in there somewhere, but I don't know where. Cameron Diaz is actually sitting behind Crowe because Cruise started working on this film like days after finishing Vanilla Sky, and Diaz is Vanilla Sky. Cameron Crowe directed Vanilla Sky. David Hornsby's in this as pre-crime public service announcer. Don't tell me where. He's obviously Cricket from It's Always Sunny. He's the producer as well. Obviously, January Jones is in the commercial for pre-crime.
Yep.
That's just she's in there as well. January Jones is from Mad Men and X-Men. Yep, the new X-Men. So there are a bunch of people in there that I couldn't find some of them. Some of them I could find.
I want to look for Jim Rash now. That's probably just like a lady.
I don't know where Technician would be. Where is Technician? I mean, obviously Cruise's cousin's in this, William Mapother. I think that's how you say his last name. He plays the guy at the hotel when they're trying to go see Leo Crow.
Yep. And
Leo Crow is Mike Binder, who's been in a couple things. So there's a lot of people in this film. A lot of people. All right. I mean, I like this film. I'm not gonna, make any bones about it. I'm a big fan of this film and got a ton of notes, ton of behind the scene notes. But obviously, why don't you give us your thoughts, because I've talked way too
long. This is our 5th Tom Cruise movie, by the way.
So you've been spending the entire time counting.
I was communicating with you, but yes.
This is our communicating with me. Thank you.
This movie, I'm the one that put this on the list. I think this movie is fantastic.
How many times have you seen this film before we did this film?
I haven't seen this film in quite some time.
Me neither.
But I have seen it this is probably my 4th or 5th time watching it.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I watched it in theaters.
Of course.
And then my parents bought it. This is 2002, so I'm just in high school. And then I probably watched it a few times, throughout high school, just watching the DVDs, the special features, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I really liked this movie when it first came out. I thought it was really, really cool. Told a really good story. Was sci-fi, but not sci-fi. Like it hit a lot of buttons.
And I
like the fact I like the way that Tom Cruise and Spielberg had developed John Anderton as a protagonist. That he's not necessarily the white knight hero. He's got a lot of issues. He's not necessarily.
He's a drug addict.
Yeah, he's a drug addict.
Which I love that.
Too into precog stuff at first, at least.
Well, he likes his job.
Yeah,
but his job was his mission because he lost his son.
Exactly.
I'm sure if you haven't seen this film,
he was developed into making. Yeah.
His son was taken as he was at the public pool, and someone just swiped his son as he was underwater, and which is the worst fear of any parent, and that kind of like, and what's her face? His wife told Lamar, like, the reason why he came to pre-crime to work for you was because he didn't want other people to lose their, have
that again. Yeah. Right.
So it was a big thing. It was just like his passion. So, that's why he was into it, as you say.
I really enjoy the Anderton angle, and I like Witwer. I like that he's got this villain in Witwer who's not really a villain. Like right off from the bat, that he just questions the project. He questions the lack of police work that really goes into the precogs. And right off the bat, you can't help but kind of also understand where he's coming from, because the very first case, it's like you're arresting this guy before he commits any crime. And he's not like a serial killer. He's not like a crazy murderer. And although I don't think they should have shown him try to stab his wife, I think him having the scissors should have been enough.
No, they always see the crime, though, because it was a red ball. So they always see the crime.
Well, they see the crime in the vision. Yes. But I mean, like, you see him, he goes to stab her, and then they stop him right as they crash down. Or Tom Cruise stops him right at the last second.
Yeah.
I think it would have worked better if he didn't stab. And then, at least as the audience, we always had the question of, but would he have stabbed her?
Well, this whole movie's questioning free will versus determinism. That's a big time theme in this film.
So, I mean, I like Witwer, and I like his religious angle, which I don't usually like in a film with that. Like, he presents a good point. Like, he is religious. He does believe in a higher power, and in some ways thinks of the precogs as oracles in a way, but at the same time questions, the lack of, due process and actually like guilt for citizens and stuff like that. And I think that makes it for an interesting villain to at least compete with until you find out who the true villain is in, Lamar Burgess.
Spoiler.
But yeah, I like all of that. And obviously Agatha coming out, the precog coming out and seeing the real world is interesting. The eyeball stuff, all the future stuff is, I think, setting it in 2054 is an interesting year because it's far enough in the future that it's far in the future, but it's still, he sets it in a world that's very much like today. Like all the advertisement stuff, especially nowadays, it's like where they go like, hey, Mr. Yakamoto, how'd you like those tank tops? And like, that's like, we're so close to that already.
Yeah.
Online, we're already there. And like, we're just 2 seconds away from that. The eye scanning technology, the motion sensor monitors and stuff like that. The technology is really interesting.
Right. Well, yeah, but they never did. What's funny is that they never predicted iPads. Like the papers that change is
Right,
interesting,
yeah.
but that's everyone on an iPad now. You know what I mean?
Exactly. You're
Scrolling.
never going to have that.
Right.
The whole glass thing that you transfer from one computer to the other. It's like now there's USB sticks. You'd never have that big glass.
Right. Those glass things are based on their clear plastic versions of iOmega's pocket zip discs. And I assume they picked those because they looked good. You know, because it's a good, like, it's a nice movie thing, like a nice look.
Oh,
you
yeah,
snap it in.
absolutely,
Yeah. So one of the biggest notes I always have for this film that I always like is the note that Spielberg, 3 years before production began, assembled a team of 16 future experts. They got like a hotel room in Santa Monica, like for a weekend in Santa Monica. And it was a bunch of really smart guys from different fields, you know, like Neil Gershenfeld as a professor at Media Lab at MIT, Sean Jones, a director of biomedical research at DARPA, which is, you know, Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. Ton of people, some authors, just a whole, and basically it was like, I can't. What's the line from Armageddon that Bruce Willis says? You know, you got a whole bunch of smart people, put them in a room and think shit up. Like that's what they did. They put them in a room and said, "Tell me what life is going to be like in 2054," and that's what they did. And a lot of things that they came up with has come true, like you talked about. And maybe some things haven't come true. I know the one thing that Spielberg said he doesn't think it's ever going to happen is the personal jetpacks, but he wanted to put him in there because he likes that.
Yeah, the jetpacks were kind of silly.
But I don't mind jetpacks. I don't understand why we don't have.
Oh no, they're dope,
Yeah.
but they're very dangerous. I mean, the first cop, he's like, "You got the grip? You got a grip?" Because he took his jetpack off and almost killed the guy. I mean, it's like,
well, I just read an article about a giant hotel that's going to be powered by 3 nuclear reactors. That's going to fly it's going to fly in the air and it could be up there for years with it ever coming down. You can't tell me that we're not going to get pocket nuclear reactors for these jetpacks.
Listen, you hear about the guy that they keep reporting near Los Angeles? He keeps flying next to the airliners. And they keep reporting that there's never taken a photo of him, but they keep going, "Hey, there's a guy next to us in a jetpack." And it's they don't know who it is. It's some private guy in a jetpack and he keeps flying next to airplanes.
Yeah. Hey.
They're there. We have them.
So that's the biggest note from this is just the stuff that they thought up. As like I said, paraphrasing Bruce Willis from Armageddon, just think shit up. So I think that was that movie. I'm sure someone's going to correct me if not. That's always the note I have. It's always the note I talk to people about this film. Yeah, I also like this film. The music in this movie, I really, really dig. I love the music at certain moments in this film. That John Williams score, obviously the end when they're revealing Lamar Burgess, like what happened.
Oh yeah,
I love that beat. The music that when they're chasing him through the car factory, the car factory
is awesome. It's like an Indiana Jones score,
right?
Almost.
The car factory scene is actually interesting. I have a note about that scene is based on an idea that Hitchcock had that was for a never filmed sequence in North by Northwest. Like that's something that he wanted to do. And that's what that's based on, which I thought was awesome.
That's
I love that
interesting
note.
Because I put a note in that it reminds me exactly of Attack of the Clones around the same time when Anakin and Padme are in the Geonosis building. And he also gets his hand almost chopped off by the same thing. I was like, that's almost scene for scene. And Spielberg and Lucas are good friends. Well, I wonder if they both took.
Well, I also read a note that there's a lot of musical beats and musical numbers in this that are very similar to Attack of the Clones because John Williams didn't come to this project until later because he was working on Attack of the Clones.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, he was super busy, obviously, at the time.
There's a lot of John Williams stuff where you can kind of like, Elise is always like, "Oh man, the Harry Potter score is so great." I'm like, that's great, but also this is from Star Wars. This is Indiana Jones. Like you can pick out things from his later scores that are inspired by his earlier work for sure.
I don't know if
when you've done like a million films, it's just going to happen.
I don't know if I've ever told you this, but I'm a big fan of his scores, but one of my favorite scores of his is Superman. I love Superman theme is awesome. but like far and away from the other stuff. I don't know why. I really dig Superman.
It's one of his earlier works, so a lot of that's like him cutting his tooth and actually making
maybe
a blockbuster score.
Yeah, maybe.
The theme, Lois's love theme. And it took years for it to come out. The Pa Kent funeral score.
Right.
I think that's a great score. And that took 20 years for it to actually end up on the album.
Mm-hmm. One of the things I did not know about this film that I learned for this podcast was that this was actually going to be the sequel to Total Recall. Did you read that? You did not hear that at all?
No.
I would. So in this movie, this story was optioned in 1992 as a sequel to Total Recall. It was going to be Total Recall 2. They changed the precogs were going to be created by the Martian atmosphere. There were going to be genetic mutations from the Martian atmosphere.
Okay.
The lead character was going to be changed to Douglas to Hauser and it was going to be a Total Recall 2 vehicle. And then it just never came to fruition. It ended up just going through a couple different hands, and then it became Minority Report. But I never knew that. Never knew it was going to be Total Recall 2.
I don't know how you even get. Well, Total Recall itself is based on a.
Yeah.
Philip K. Dick
Yeah.
as well,
So that's
right?
why
Yeah.
And it was a big success. And they were
just
going
going to turn another short story into a sequel.
They were going to change it. They were going to
But
take.
how do you get Schwarzenegger's character into another? I just don't understand how you get him to be involved in another story like that.
I don't know. It just never happened. So
I'm kind of glad it became its own thing. If it, in its own universe, same universe, that'd be cool.
I mean,
The Philip K. Dick verse.
Well, look at like Tears from the Sun that Willis was in was going to be a Die Hard movie, and then they just decided no, it can't be a Die Hard film.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, that was
I
going to
like
be a
Tears from the
Die
Sun
Hard
quite a
film.
bit. Okay.
So like there's all this tons of stuff like that. They were trying to always find Die Hard sequels.
Oh yeah.
Like stuff like that. They're just looking for concepts.
Well, Die Hard's probably the most pitched thing ever. Die Hard, but on a
Oh, yeah.
Die Hard, but
Die Hard in a hockey rink, I give you
Yeah.
sudden death. Die Hard on a bus, I give you speed. Die Hard on a train, I give you Under Siege 2, Dark Territory. I mean, Die Hard on a boat, I give you Under Siege. I mean, it's
Right, yeah.
absolutely.
Interesting.
So yeah, it's Die Hard on a phone booth, I give you a phone booth. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, so I never knew that it was going to be a sequel. I mean, I love Total Recall, but I love Total Recall for just the sheer,
Cheese value.
the quotes, the lines, just the action and the violence. Like it's just so absurd, but I love it.
It's schlocky in the right way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I dig it. So this film was also going to be called Second Sight, which I do not like. That was like a working title. I did not like that.
No.
Although I wonder if Second Sight is actually the title they hid on the fake title.
cards and stuff, yeah.
So I'm wondering if they were sending it out and it was just kind of like,
Second Sight, whatever. I'm really interested. Where's Steven Spielberg filming that Minority Report movie?
So the precogs are named after famous mystery writers. Do you know the mystery writers are named after?
Doyle, Agatha Christie, and then the other guy I'd never even really heard of.
Dashiell Hammett. Yeah.
which
he's
I don't know
he's
his
crime writer. Yeah. He's
Okay.
really good. Really good. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle is Doyle.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously. Because Arthur, Dashiell, and Agatha. Yeah. So there you go. That's my note. And we're done.
Nice. I like the note that Steven Spielberg was going to do the bubble in the bathtub scene with the spiders going after him by
I
himself.
know.
And Tom Cruise is like, no, I'll learn how to do it.
I'll figure this out. Spielberg was going to do the bubble. So when
What kind of
when
bubble
the-
you want? I'll be a professional bubble maker.
So when the spiders, which are described as, I believe, if Rolex made grenades, I think that's what they said, or want like really high. I can't think it was Rolex. So they throw the spiders in to go check everybody, but to scan everyone's eyes, make sure that it's who they are, which I swear to God is coming. So he tries to hide in the tub. He sits there, and the spiders come in, and they don't see him. They're about to leave, and he blows a bubble comes out from his mouth or his nose,
right.
and pop, and then the spiders come in and shock him, and they just scan him. But he was going to CGI that bubble, like Butler says, and Cruise took it upon himself to learn how to create that bubble.
I will make that bubble.
I
will shape it myself.
How about the fact that when they do the surgery on his eye, and they use those things to pry his eye open,
Oh,
I'm
that's
like,
really
what are you
happening? Yep.
doing? Like, no thanks.
So it's like Malcolm McDowell in
Clockwork Orange.
Clockwork Orange. He actually had his eyes. He actually cut his retina.
Ugh.
I couldn't see for like
no thanks.
Yep.
Because they cut to just the hands doing it. That's a surgeon doing that. That's somebody that does that
professional.
procedure.
Yeah, you're not giving
it's
the
not
guy-
Peter Stormare.
Yeah, so Stormare's like, all right, I'm gonna do it.
Give it a shot. Oh, I'll do all right. Let me just blow my nose again.
Yeah,
Let me just sneeze.
Tom
everywhere.
Cruise would be like, all right.
Yeah, no, let's do this. I did that bubble.
Tom Cruise took a pay cut to do this movie.
Well, not just a pay cut. So Tom Cruise and Spielberg waived their usual salary. And one of the notes I have, and it was in Wikipedia, I didn't write it down, but one of the notes, basically, Spielberg has talked about, he tells people, I believe for a while now, that he says 80% of his films are not done by movie stars. He tells them, listen, you need to, if you're going to do this film with me, you need to take some risks with me. You need to take that risk and believe in me. So Spielberg waives his fee, and basically the actors waive their fee, and they both waived their fee for this movie, and they took 15% of the gross. And 15% of the gross of $358 million is $53.7 million. So they each made $53.7 million.
Nice.
I mean, it's like, oh yeah, geez. It's like, you know, you almost like the studio should be like, no. We don't take a percentage. We'll pay you.
Nope, too late. Sorry.
So I think Spielberg always takes a percentage of I mean, he's so rich now, he probably can afford to, but always takes a percentage of the gross.
Right.
And he has his stars do that as well. Probably not for West Side Story because there wasn't that many big stars in that.
They probably want to get paid.
Yeah. But I read that note too. It's just like, not a bad payday.
That's also West Side Story is also a cast with a lot of leads.
But they're not big name stars who are going to demand big salaries.
Oh yeah, but I mean, even if they got a percentage, their percentage would have to be smaller.
Well, they didn't make a lot of money.
Too many people.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah, true.
True indeed.
Let's talk about the look of the film. What do you think about the look of the film?
I really like the look of the film. I think it looks a little different than a lot of Spielberg's other films. It's a little dirtier, a little grittier. It's blue. It's very blue. I mean, that's kind of like it's blue tinted a little bit, which kind of makes sense. That's kind of the poster. That's when you think about Minority Report, I think of the color blue, I guess, if I was to associate a color with it. But I think it's a little more dour than a lot of his other films in terms of the grit. Even some of his war films and stuff like that have a little bit of a artistic beauty to them that maybe this one doesn't.
Well, one of the notes I have here is that Spielberg told his message to Kaminsky was that he wanted to create the ugliest, dirtiest movie either of them have ever made. So, I mean, you're right in that regard that,
Yeah.
But one of the things that Kaminsky did was he did a bleach bypass of the film, and which is skipping the bleaching of the silver halide crystals, just shot on Super 35. And it creates a desaturated silver tinted color. He did that for Saving Private Ryan as well. So they desaturated the film. They took 40% of the color out of the movie. And there's something else that Spielberg has been doing with Kaminsky, and I don't know when it started. I want to say because it was in Saving Private Ryan. They extremely blow out a lot of stuff. Like whites are like blinding. And I remember in Saving Private Ryan, and ever since then, I don't know if it was before, because I can't sit here and tell you. I know that's E.T. has some stuff like that, but Jurassic Park didn't.
No.
And, none of the Raiders did. None of the Indiana Jones did. And I don't even think 4 did.
No.
Yeah.
It wasn't. No.
So
4 kind of matched.
I think he kind of kept it. So A Bridge of Spies did. So sometime in the 90s.
Warhorse doesn't, though.
No, Warhorse doesn't. Warhorse is very much like Gone with the Wind almost. Especially
it's very artistic.
Yeah, very. I'm a Warhorse guy. Sorry. But yeah, I want to say it was mid 90s or maybe after Schindler's List.
It's basically anything that's more modern will take place with that blowout.
Munich is extremely blown out. Yes. And this is my another pitch again. Please go see Munich. It is it's so good. But anyways, so he has done this thing where he blows out whites constantly. It works very well for this film. Obviously, because it's a futuristic film, even though it's dirty and ugly, like it talked about. Yeah. I think those notes really work for this film. I love the way it looks. I think it works for Saving Private Ryan. I mean, Lincoln was like this, and I think it was a little distracting at Lincoln at some times.
Lincoln was a little desaturated. I didn't notice the brightness quite as much
in this.
In Lincoln, no.
In Lincoln, it's in moments, but it's mostly like when they're inside, mostly when they're in the chamber. I think.
Okay.
But
no, I've never noticed it more than in this film.
Oh yeah, no, this thing, and then Saving Private Ryan was very desaturated
because it's cloudy outside a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. So no, like you, I dug the look of the film. I liked what they were doing. I liked that note about skipping the bleach bypass and skipping. And I actually was reading an article that I shared with a couple of people about that process, and it was fascinating me. I was just like, wow, this is really, really interesting. But I'm not going to bore everyone here, so I'll bore someone else. But this was his first. Like I talked about, he shot on Super 35 in this film. This is his first time shooting in Super 35, Spielberg. It's also his first movie he shot in 239 since Hook. So it was, I'm sure he's done it since then. I'm not really sure. So there's a lot of interesting, and with any Spielberg film, there's always a lot of interesting tidbits in terms of what goes into the production of the film, what they're trying to do, and I always appreciate that. So yeah, no, I also like the way it looked. Let's talk about because I think the story holds up. The mystery. I love the Whitwer stuff like you talked about. You know, his death is really shocking. His death is not as shocking. It's very similar to the death of Kevin Spacey's character in LA Confidential when he's sitting there and he's telling his chief about, you know, oh, we tell this, and he turns on and just shoots him.
Yeah.
That death was very surprising. It was very similar to that. The way he died, Whitwer dies in this, but not as shocking because you knew what was happening. You knew it was coming.
Yeah. As soon as he's talking to him, like
Yeah.
you were waiting
His
for that
hands
reveal
low.
before.
Yeah, you could see like Burgess's hand low below the desk.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's holding the gun.
Even when Agatha's first recalling, like, and he's almost about to take his mask off in Riley's like pleasure chamber kind of thing.
Right.
You almost you know it's going to be Lamar.
Yeah.
So when he's talking to Whitwer the entire time, you just like, get out of there.
Yeah.
Get out of there. But I do love that Whitwer smiles when he's about to die because he's a
when
character
he's-
so in touch with his religion and a character who so wants to solve the case that boom, he's
yeah.
gonna die and be with God and his father or whatever.
Yeah.
And he solved the case.
Yeah, he
It
does
was
solve the
Lamar.
case before
So
Anderton.
he's all right dying. He's like, I figured it out. That's all
Yeah.
he wants to do.
Yeah.
So I
don't know if he's-
really like.
I don't know if he's all right dying, but I
Not
think
all
he's
right
come
dying,
peace
but I
with it.
like that,
Yeah.
like at peace, that smile that he
Right.
gives. I think that's a really cool death.
Right.
Instead of being like, oh no, he's like, oh, I figured it out. Like I think I like that.
Well, it's also when you say really cool death, I think it's shot really well. That where he stands over him and his jacket covers his face, and then you hear the gunshot.
Yeah, because you can't
and
obviously
smoke.
be
and-
rated
yeah.
R if you see him blow his face off.
I think that's. I mean,
yeah.
that's Spielberg. It's a really well orchestrated scene.
You know what I hear right now? Silence.
No pitter-patter,
cops,
yeah.
no pitter patter of any police officer feet.
They kind of repeat that a little bit towards the end because he's like, no doubt the precogs have already seen
Oh,
this.
Tom
no doubt.
Cruise says it. Yeah,
So you like Farrell in this film?
I like Farrell in every
Is there
film.
any performance that I don't want to say you didn't like, but is there anything performance that you maybe wanted a little bit more of? Is there somebody like a character that you wanted to know more about, or something that?
I like Fletcher, and I think Fletcher's always on Anderton's side. You know, come on, don't run, John, don't run, John. You know,
Right,
it's that
right.
bum knee. Like they're buddy. I would like a little bit more. Like he's still all in on the case on catching Anderton. I would have liked a little bit more infighting between Whitwer, Fletcher, and maybe just the squad in general. Got to catch him. And then I was not a fan of the cop who was always trying to like get him.
Yeah,
I thought that was a little too overblown. Like, unless I had some backstory onto why he hated John so much, like he was just kind of a dick.
I don't know if he
Just
hated
be-
John. I think he just liked doing his job. I don't know.
He's a little too into it, unless he is supposed to represent police brutality. Like when the lady's like, "You're making my baby cry. You're gonna give him nightmares." Lady, you have me meet your kid. You're gonna see some nightmares.
Well-
He's like, calm the fuck down.
Yeah, but also that tenement or wherever that building they go into when Anderton's recovering from surgery
Right.
is a dump.
Oh yeah, it's
Holy
like a
cow!
cyberpunk Blade
what
Runner type
a
thing. Yeah.
dump.
I do like the little bit of like almost absurdist or slapstick humor they have in there when they're doing like when the spiders are scanning people's eyes and when they're having the jetpack fight.
or
That little bit of like
or when
busting into other people's lives.
when he loses his eye.
And he has to run
Yeah.
out of the eyeballs and one of
Yeah.
them goes down the drain.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like going into each person, like the couple that are fighting. Oh, what do you mean? Oh, get off my back! Oh. And then they stop and they just let themselves be scanned.
See,
They go back.
the
to
one thing with
fighting.
the one thing with that scene is it just feels like
hokey.
not that it
It's definitely
feels
hokey.
hokey, but when they back up and then look stupid, it feels like it doesn't match. Like, so I will say that there some of the CGI and some of the special effects are a little dated. You know what I mean?
For sure, yeah.
And that scene, not the spiders, but that in particular when they're like, oh, and she stands straight back and the spider comes, I'm just like, it doesn't look great.
I think this film could use like a once over just to make certain CGI special effects a little bit more high definition because the movie
Yeah.
looks okay, but the CG is really like that old school like early 2000s blurry CG where it just kind of like takes you out of it. I think.
I mean, I like the scene in the alleyway because it's a lot of practical stuff. With
the jetpacks and stuff,
I
yeah.
thought that thing.
But they
is-
look like they're on wires.
No, I know. What are you gonna do? I mean, yeah, and when they have they call them the dispensers or nickname the dispensers because they're like Pez dispensers. The ships, those look okay when they're flying over the house at the end.
Right.
Yeah.
The cars look bad though. Oh, the Lexus looks cool because it's a real car.
So seeing that you brought up the Lexus, they paid $5 million to have a futuristic version of the car in the movie, but like they couldn't really give them. We don't know what it would look like. Like someone else had to design it for him, which is so stupid. But part of that deal was also to give Spielberg a Lexus SC 430 convertible, which is like a $60,000 car. Like that, he got that as part of the deal. Like, really? Like, you want to be in my movie? I want a new car.
I saw that Lexus at one of the auto shows I had gone to.
That's a really cool moment. We talked about the car factory scene real quick, but that's a really cool moment when Whitwer pulls himself out of the car and then just watching the car, and all of a sudden he just like pops up and they're just like, he punches him. He's like, God damn. You know, that was a really good moment. Although I don't know how my favorite thing about that is, you know, it's a really awesome moment and we all love it. But when you look at it again and again and again, it's like he drives right off the assembly line and the doors open. Like it's like stuff like that. It's just, it's a great scene because he runs at him. He drives off into the light and you're like, yeah. But then you're like, why did that happen? Like, but no one cares.
That whole scene at the end, I'm just like, of course. Like a map scene that takes him to the lady's like greenhouse, which by the way, did you like the greenhouse? Because I thought that was a bit much. That was a little too Hogwarts for me.
They don't really explain the plant. I don't know. Here's the thing. I don't know if the plants were something that they thought up in that you know, futuristic think tank thing. But she is somebody who creates hybrids. She created the prequel. She was part of the mother of the precogs.
Yeah.
I guess. I mean, do you really want to spend another 10 minutes talking about those plants or just understand the plants?
The plants. I don't know.
I will say this, that character of Hinneman was supposed to be played by Meryl Streep, and she backed out, which I'm kind of happy because it would have been distracting.
That would have been distracting.
I'm glad it was Lois Smith. I'm glad it was somebody that a character actor that you've seen in other things. You kind of know. Her kiss when she kisses Tom Cruise was completely ad lib. She just did that.
Nice.
And he was like, and his reaction is genuine shock when he pulls back. Like, so she just did that, which is awesome. I mean, honestly, you're that close to Tom Cruise. You're Lois Smith. You're going to take a shot. I'm sure Cruise, when they call a cut, I'm sure Cruise was like, awesome.
Good job.
But no, I was kind of glad that it was her and it wasn't Meryl Streep. I mean, all the plants are moving. I don't.
It's just a lot. And it's like so weird. And like out of everything we've seen, we haven't seen biologically like recreated, genetically mutated things. The precogs are a result of people's drug abuse. It just seemed a little out of place to me. And the fact that she's a geneticist working on humans. These are plants. Maybe a two-headed dog or something would have.
Well,
made
maybe if there was more of that in the movie, or maybe if you saw the plants moving in another location.
Sure, yeah. If I saw them
maybe,
before, yeah. But this is the only instance where that happens.
Yeah, I maybe. I mean, but you get the idea that she's somebody who is advanced, so she's working with stuff. Maybe
sure,
that
but she's also
with.
Nuts and speaks in riddles.
Obvious, that's clear.
But then he goes, "Just say it," and then she says it like 8 times.
But the thing is also like she knows a lot. Like I don't know how she knows all this stuff. Like Agatha, like she tells like why the she talks about Whitwer being there looking over, like, how do you know all this?
That's something I was confused with in the film, because it's like they set Anderton up as like he's been there since the beginning.
Right.
But then there's stuff like, ooh, this was before your time. So how long were the precogs doing like testing and stuff before John came over? I got a really weird sense of like the timeline of the precogs, because it's been what, 6 years at the experiment?
So to the 2048, so 6 years. Yeah, because he says it's 6 years.
Yeah.
6 years of pre-com unit was closed down.
So was he part of it for 6 years?
I
Were they
believe
doing
so.
things for a few years before that?
Well,
there some of those files are before your time.
I don't know how. See, that's the thing too, because they don't really tell you how long ago John's kid was taken. So I don't know if it was before it, around the time. I don't know. So maybe. I mean, I would like to think. I could see for a case he comes there 3 years into pre-crime, maybe. You know what I mean? Like maybe this happened and then he was like, I want to go to pre-crime. I want to stop this.
And then 3 years have gone by and he made it more popular than it was for the 3 years.
Maybe. I mean, it could be. I don't know.
Sure. I just thought that whole scene was a little like, had things that are like kind of bothered me a little bit.
The whole thing with the drugs, with they called it like heroin. Not heroin, but heroin.
New heroin.
It's like, it's really easy to, because we don't know anything about the drug, but at the end of the film, we get the impression that Cruise has kicked his habit. I mean, if he was a major drug, like how harmful is this drug? Like, you know, it's an inhaler, it's an inhalant. Mm-hmm. It gets him whatever, it gets him what he gets, and he makes him feel good and dulls the pain.
Well, did they say he's taking heroin, or he's just taking something?
No, they say he's an heroin addict. They say it. That's what he is taking. But it's like, at the end of the movie, you're supposed to be like, okay, so that's all done now. Like, what's because everything's back to normal.
Right.
And another thing too is, you go back to the apartment, you go back to the city to live. Why don't you live in that countryside house by the coast?
I feel like he'd have a not responsibility.
Well, he's obviously an officer again.
Yeah. What's the like? If he felt like he had a responsibility, he had a
duty.
A duty. Yeah, I feel like he had like a duty because he helped take down pre-crime to stay on and stop murders from happening still, since he was responsible for the loss of pre-crime.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like he'd stay there and still go back to the summer house.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what was he going to do? Retire and work at a Target?
They have Targets back then? Or in the future? Maybe?
Imagine. Super Walmart's. Amazon. He'd work in an Amazon warehouse. It's all Amazon in the future.
Yeah, no, maybe they didn't get that right.
Oh my God, the amount of product placement in this film.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, the Gap still sucks in the future. They still got nothing.
Gap, Ben & Jerry's, Lexus.
Oh, yeah. People paid for that. They all paid for that.
Oh, my
USA
God.
Today.
Do you think Spielberg told Ben & Jerry's, I'll let you in, but you got to get me a cappuccino?
Yeah,
cappuccino?
I want all my own ice cream that you don't sell to anybody else.
They got a deal on that.
You got it, Steve. You got it. I mean, Cops is still on in 2054.
I saw that. I was like, ooh.
Well, that's because it's 20th Century Fox. Well, we didn't get that wrong because Cops could still come back. They could still redo it.
Yeah.
So you never know. Do you like the scene at the end with Leo Crow? What do you think about that scene? The scene that kind of leads the whole thing. The when you see that Anderson's destined to kill this guy. Do you like that scene?
I mean, I do like that scene. I like that they talk about like the orgy of evidence because it is kind of ridiculous. He has all the photos. Because I forgot that they mentioned that. Because when he has all the photos in the bed, I'm like, what is this guy having throwing it up in the air, going, "Yay!
Look at all the kids I kidnapped."
Like it just seemed a little too much. But then I go, oh yeah, that's right. He does reference it later.
Mm-hmm.
But the scene where he's like, where John realizes this is the guy that killed my kid, even though it wasn't. Like, I think that's great. And like his reactions, what he talks about when he hears about the barrel, like you put him in the barrel, it went down with I put a rock on top, it still came back up. I did it slowly. I did it. He didn't feel any pain.
I mean, he lies really well.
He did lie really well.
It's like his performance. Like it was like a performance. It was like, I'm really doing that really well. It would have been better if you were like just like kind of stumbling. Yeah, I killed him. Like it's
that guy died. I killed that kid. Good.
It's oddly specific to what you were doing.
He looked real dumb with his eyes dead.
Yeah. My note in that for that scene is that Samantha Morton, who plays Agatha, is like in her own movie in that scene in a good way. She's she is doing something on that bed when everything's happening. And she's just screaming. And she's like on all fours and screaming, like just having like just whatever it is.
Don't do it.
Right. I feel like she's off doing something with Agatha that either Spielberg was like, go ahead, do what you need to do. Because she's always doing something different.
Well, she's someone who's never really had a childhood, never really had a life. She's never slept. So she's got to be a little off her rocker and a little more like someone who can't handle emotions because she's never really had any other than watching murderers and being like just fearful.
So this movie was going to be done few years earlier than this, but Spielberg decided to go do AI and artificial intelligence, and the script got reworked. But Tom Cruise was still going to be in it. But back then, it was going to be Cate Blanchett as Agatha, Matt Damon as Whitwer, Ian McKellen as Burgess, and Jenna Elfman as Laura Anderson. And then after the delay, they actually offered the role of Whitwer to Javier Bardem, but he turned it down because he didn't just want to run around chasing Tom Cruise, which is what Farrell puts in. So the original cast, I'm actually okay with all of that, with the exception of Jenna Elfman as Laura. I'm not a Jenna Elfman fan, so I just don't know if she would have been the right.
I don't feel like she has a lot to do.
Yeah,
I think she would have been all right.
I mean, I like what we got.
So
Max von Sydow is really, really good.
Yep.
I don't know how Cate Blanchett would have done the Agatha role because I think Samantha Morton was pretty spot on.
Really good as Agatha, and I don't know if I've ever really seen too much younger, around this time, Cate Blanchett. So I don't know how I would have what I could compare that to.
Well, the reason why Matt Damon couldn't do it was because of Bourne Identity.
Yeah. Matt Damon would have done a great job, obviously, but I'm glad we got Colin Farrell because I'm a big Colin Farrell fan. So that works too.
Big Colin Farrell fan.
But yeah, I think Ian McKellen would have been interesting, especially this would be during his
Lord of the Rings stint. Well, Lord of the Rings is just coming out, right?
Exactly. So you're seeing him, but he's already in your mind's eye as a good guy, as a hero. Mm. So having him be this villain, it would be a little bit maybe harder to expect him to be the villain.
Yeah.
Whereas Max von Sydow, I'm like, no, this guy's got to be. He's got to be.
Oh, yeah, no, not my boy Max. Come on.
He's gonna be the bad guy.
Did you play the video game when it came out?
I did. I owned the video.
Minority Report.
I haven't
Everybody
played it in
runs.
years.
What was it? What kind of game was it?
It was like a platforming shoot, like a side-scrolling 3D beat 'em up game.
Okay.
Third person. I remember it being fun, but obviously like kind of rushed to kind of meet the movie, but a good time. And you could use that spinny shotgun thing, which was always fun. It wasn't perfect, but it was a good, probably $30 game. Although I'm sure I spent a full $60 on it when it came out.
Way to go. Is it really $60 back then?
Even back then, yeah.
Wow.
Even Sega Genesis games used to be $80.
Wow. Interesting. Now, this is going to be a specific scene in the movie when John is left and Anderton's on the run and Whitworth's trying to figure out where they're going. Not when he sits down and breaks apart the
keyboard.
When he first sits in Anderton's seat and that woman comes over. Yeah. She says Anderson.
Oh, does she?
She does. I rewound it and went back. She says Anderson. It's like, come on, man. It's Anderton. So, yeah, I didn't know if you noticed that.
I did not notice it, but I did think it was weird that you call him Anderton because the whole time I'm like, why Anderton? Did somebody mess up spelling his name?
That's his name. I think that's his name in the story.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The other thing, speaking of Whitworth, is I don't understand how fast he learned how to use the screen, the 3D screen, like he's only there to observe. And then all of a sudden he's running the investigation and he's controlling the thing and he's sitting there. Look,
there could be more people that have big screens.
I don't know. But they're the only pre-crime unit.
But that's just a giant research screen. He works for the Attorney General, right?
He's there to make sure that the pre-crime unit is on board, is above board so that they can become a national thing. But here's the other thing too. So these precogs are going to start for the whole entire country, are going to predetermine, are going to discover crime happening there. The entire country.
I wondered the same thing the whole time I'm watching it going, wait, but they're clearly DC is too much from them. How are they going to do the entire country? And then obviously the world's going to want.
Are there other precogs?
There's got to be other precogs, which is probably the plot of the TV show that I never watched.
No, the plot of the TV show takes place 10 years after this happens, and one of the twins is working as a partner with a woman, and she is like, and he's trying to figure out where he fits in this world, and he's helping her solve crimes. That didn't last.
It was like 1-2 seasons. I wanted to watch it, but
one
I never
season.
watched
It was started like in November, and I think it ended like or maybe it was one season. It was just one season, so no, it didn't last. But it's a Fox show, so you know it's going to last. Fox cuts. Yeah, Fox shows don't do well. They just cut them loose.
Like Being Human or Becoming Human or whatever.
Being Human.
Yeah.
Being Human. No, Being Human was on Sci-Fi. I'm sorry. Maybe it was Becoming Human.
Yeah, the one with Carl Urban.
Was it? You like that?
I did like that. Yeah.
So we both love this film, Butler.
Mm-hmm.
But I've got critic quotes.
Oh man,
that don't like this film. So I'm gonna tick you off now. Andrew O'Heher of the online magazine Salon.
What's this guy's address?
Expressed excitement over the atypical. Oh, this isn't a bad one, but this one I have. I thought this was a little condescending.
Okay.
He expressed excitement over the atypically hard edge of the movie. Little Steven Spielberg is all grown up now into, of all things, a superior film artist. Hey, go fuck yourself. It's like, come on.
What?
Yeah, right. I mean, like that's a little condescending.
This guy's been making blockbusters hand over foot.
Little Steven Spielberg.
Cinema as we know
This is 4 years. 4 years after Saving Private Ryan. This is like much longer after Schindler's List. Give me a break. I thought that was super, super condescending and almost like I don't watch movies before 2000, like almost like that. Here's the bad ones. No, is this another bad one?
You only have good reviews.
No, I do have a bad one. This one's not bad. I didn't understand this. I thought this was another condescending one. Jay Hoberman of The Village Voice said it is the most entertaining, least pretentious genre movie Steven Spielberg has made in a decade since Jurassic Park. It's like, what's with the shot? What's with the dig?
I mean, AI is kind of pretentious, but it's not really his.
I don't think AI is pretentious.
I think it's a little pretentious.
It's fucking Pinocchio. Do you think Pinocchio is pretentious?
I think certain versions.
Really? The flesh fair is pretentious? You don't think humanity is going to get to that? That's not pretentious. I'll give you the bad one now.
All right.
Jonathan Rosenbaum, then of the Chicago Reader, said not to be conned into thinking that some sort of serious, thoughtful statement is being delivered along with the roller coaster ride.
Come on, man.
I know it's like you're just saying shit to say shit. You're being contrarian to be contrarian. It's a good film. It's okay to say it's a good film. It's okay. It's okay to say it's a good film. I do have one more, I think. Here we go. Andrew Saris of the New York Observer gave the film a negative review in which he described the script as full of plot holes, the car chases as silly, and criticized the mixture of futuristic environments with defiantly retro costuming. The complexity of the storyline was also a source of criticism for Kenneth Turan of the Los Angeles Times, who considered the plot too intricate and difficult to follow. Both Rosenbaum and Hoberman, who I mentioned earlier, belittled the titular Minority Report as a red herring.
It's a little bit of a red herring since there is no actual Minority Report in the case that they're solving. And it does come in a little late. I will say that, but it's a good title. That's why you got to use the title. However, the idea of the fact that
it's difficult to follow.
Relying on that to...
Yeah, I don't think it was difficult to follow at all.
It's not difficult to follow at all.
Yeah.
If you were sitting there going, wait, she was Agus's mother? You should have gotten that 8 scenes before why she's focusing on her.
Right.
And that she was an heroin addict, just like, shockingly, all their mothers.
I never understood.
And the costuming? What's wrong with the costume? What do you think we're going to wear in 30 years, 40 years?
I know.
Not pants and shirts?
It all comes back. All the styles just keep coming back.
It's going to be clothes. Fun fact, it's going to be clothes that they wear. And there's no car chase. There's a scene in a car factory building.
Well, when he gets in the car and he's talking to Lamar, and then they're like, "Oh, they're coming," and then the car pulls it back, but then he jumps from the car.
Yeah, it's not a chase. He's just climbing cars.
Yeah, I know. This is another moment in the film that I liked but I'd never understand it because it happens in movies all the time. When his wife is talking to Lamar, and he says, "I'll figure out how this woman drowned," and she's like, "I never said she drowned." It's like,
oh yeah,
it's a really good moment when someone is caught in a lie. Well, why do you reveal it? You to the killer, like just basically saying, "I know you're lying. Kill me later." Like, I mean, it's like
we'll have this conversation later, maybe at your cabin.
If it's a fantastic moment, but
Lamar,
it's just
I will never be going back to my cabin. Thank you.
He like pushes the chair away, and he's like, "We'll talk this later. I'll come to your house and murder you." Like, it's just like, come on. And the other thing, in terms of like at the end of the film, he's being honored, and it's going to be national. The guy that was investigating Whitwer, that was investigating whether you were going to be, legit, is murdered while he's there. I'm sorry, but they're not going to be like green light. They're going to be like, we need to pause. What the hell is going on?
There's no conversation about it. I thought the same thing. There's nothing about the murder of Whitwer.
Yeah, there's a lot of like messiness
involved. You could have made him
disappear,
I guess.
But there's a lot of messy. No, because when they put Anderton away and they arrest him, they say,
for the murder of Whitwer. Oh, that's right. He killed him with his own gun.
Right. But it's just, that's the other thing too. It's like, you just tacked on that murder, in a world where everybody is tracked. I'm pretty sure you can figure out he wasn't anywhere near his apartment. So,
in fact, when Whitwer was murdered, he was basically in the cabin.
And Lamar going to the apartment never got eye scanned on his way there by anything. Like, was he like, I mean, like that, like, I get it. You're supposed to think that, but you don't see it. So, it's plausible that they could figure that out.
Yeah.
But whatever. We love the film. And anyways, whatever. But that, if somebody came out, but what about this? What about that? I can't argue with that because like, you're right.
Yeah.
Don't really bring it up.
Some holes in the plot.
And my only argument is like, it's a 2.5-hour film. I don't want 3. So I understand.
True, yeah.
For the sake of moving the story along, that's probably stuff they couldn't really talk about. So let's get to the point now where we do lines for the film. What's your favorite line in this film?
Obviously, it's run! But I do like when he's like, "Oh, you little stick the landing there, you little shaky on the landing there. It's my bum knee. Don't run, John. Don't run, John." And he just like goes into it.
Saying,
like, like
everybody runs.
Everybody runs.
I love. Don't ever say his name when he yells it at the end of the thing.
When he just loses cool. I also like you're gonna rot. You can either kill me and prove it works, or rot in hell with a halo.
Yep.
I thought that was a good contrasting line.
I love Anderson's line in the beginning was like, "Give the man his hat." I like that line.
Mm-hmm.
I like what's his face's line, Gideon's line. If you dig with the past, all you get is dirty. One of the moments I like is when they're in the elevator, and he's got the gun on Whitwer.
He thinks the
he's
red
like,
ball.
Now put the gun down, John. I don't hear a red ball. And the fucking alarm goes off. He's just like,
oh shit. I thought I have that. Really that's one of my favorite parts.
Yeah. There's a ton of lines in this film that like we used to always say the run line all the time. We were back in the day. We don't ever say his name. We used to love that line. So
here's an orgy of evidence.
Yeah.
You have so much evidence that you can't help but prosecute the guy. Do you know how many times in my time as a homicide detective I saw an orgy of evidence? How many? None.
Like, I know I have a ton of other notes, but I know that this episode cannot be an hour and a half. So why are we saying that this movie is forgotten?
Because we're talking about it like we've never talked about it before. And we really have never talked about it. All the times we've talked movies, we've said the run line a bunch of times to each other, but we've never really talked about Minority Report together. And I think that in terms of Spielberg movies, you're going to talk about a bunch of other movies before you talk about this. I mean, even during this time, he did, Saving Private Ryan's a little bit before this. You've got War of the Worlds, which he did with Tom Cruise as well.
It's a couple years after.
You got his, like, what I call his later year movies, which is like Bridge of Spy,
Munich.
War Horse, Munich. Munich is a little bit like this as well, gritty and
I think I can make a claim that Munich is one of his forgotten films because I don't think people talk about Munich enough. No, I love Munich.
I think because Munich is also very unlike him in terms of the way it is.
I hear you. It's a movie that
it's very different for him.
Spielberg films have always been especially recently, his movies that come out have always been come out at the right time. Like in terms of like they may be set in the past or about something else, but they're kind of shadowing something, a feeling that's happening in the world in this time. West Side Story's like that. The Post is like that. Munich's like that. Munich is a very divisive. It's about obviously an event in time that, some people don't want to talk about, but it is such a good film. But yeah, no, go ahead. Continue your thought.
So I just think that shades, like not shades, but that kind of covers Minority Report. You're going to talk about, sci-fi movies. I feel like you're going to talk about War of the Worlds before you talk about this in terms of sci-fi and, Tom Cruise and Steven Spielberg working together. I think that Bridge of Spies, Munich, although I think that's probably earlier, War Horse, West Side Story, those are his later year movies. Those are his kind of big time blockbustery kind of homage, even though they talk about subject matter that's prevalent today, they're kind of an homage to the past. Whereas Minority Report is kind of within his like action, fun blockbuster genre, which I think has faded away from him right now. And you're going to talk about the other films like Raiders, even Saving Private Ryan in terms of like action scenes and stuff like that above this film. And I think that hurts it. I think the fact that we talk about the special effects are dated, the fact that we've done 5 other Tom Cruise movies already before we got to this one. I feel like it's kind of a little in between, although I think people know about this movie and obviously they saw it was a very successful movie. I think that it's a little forgotten in terms of just people talking about the movie and how good it is and how rewatchable it is even today.
Yeah, I would say that this is probably not a forgotten film, but maybe a film that people just don't know about. Like it's over 20 years old. So, people that were born before it, you know what I mean, are in their 20s.
Oh,
or
people
teenagers.
In their 20s probably haven't seen it.
Born after it. So, this is probably a movie that someone would have to show them.
I even know like my fiance at least hasn't seen it. I remember, she saw it now, but I remember in college I had to show it to her because back then she was in high school, like a freshman in high school. She didn't care. And back then
I made
was,
her care
watching all these kind of films. So I was like, oh, you guys, Minority Report's really good. So even people in their 30s, I feel like are like, we're too young to really appreciate this movie at the time.
Well, we have the luxury. I mean, maybe me more than you, but we have the luxury of growing up in a time when blockbusters were fun and they were exciting and like the future, E.T., Jaws, like they were like
new and stuff.
Right. Now, a lot of the stuff is very satirical and cynical and, wink, wink, nod, nod. A lot of their reference points are these movies that we all grew up with. Like I am sick and tired of people explaining time travel by saying Back to the Future. You can't. Yeah. I hate that. But we had that luxury of growing up with these type of films. I don't really need Spielberg to go back and do these type of films. I get it. He's the best. He's one of the best. He's arguably the best. I guess that's probably what I'll say. I don't know anybody now that would do this type of film like him. No, I'm sorry. there isn't anyone. I mean, listen, there's a ton of great directors, but there's only one Spielberg right now. And I don't know if I'll ever see that those type of films that we grew up with returning, these kind of like, you talk about all the time how you desperately want an adventure film and you like crave it so much that you want like movies like Jungle Cruise to be great. You want movies like Jumanji, which Jumanji is good, but you want it to be what you want it to be because you're desperate for those type of films and those type of films aren't around anymore because they're just not made. They're not made well.
Oh no. Then you get an Uncharted.
Right. You get like The Lost City. You get movies that are just kind of like you're not you are missing the boat on what the type of film you want to do. You're trying to do I know you want to do Indiana Jones, but you're not. You're doing something that is completely nothing like it. So I think we were blessed with in terms of growing up in that time, and not just Spielberg, Lucas as well. So I don't need him to go back and do that. Let him. I want him to. I'd love to see his older stuff. I know that one of his things, like he wants to work like Clint Eastwood keeps working into his 90s. Not Clint Eastwood's not making a fantastic film every time, but he's making films, and I appreciate seeing them. So I mean, I want Spielberg to keep doing what he's doing. He's got The Fabelmans coming out, and he's got a new one that is in pre-production right now. I believe. Is
he directing The Fabelmans?
He did direct. He directed it. Okay. I believe he directed it. I'm pretty sure I saw that he directed it. I know he's got another one that's coming that he's in pre-production for. So I want to see all that stuff, the older stuff.
Sure.
I really like. See, the thing is, was like his older stuff, like with The Post and Munich and War Horse. Like we don't grow up with those. We don't watch those films more than once. We've only seen them, then we moved on. Like go back to them, not you, but go back to them. Like and watch, and you'll see those moments that you love, and you're like, wow, like no other director's gonna do that. I don't know. Again, I said I wouldn't do this, but I went on a tangent about Spielberg. I apologize. Right? I just want to do one more note about Minority Report, and then we'll stop. In 2016, IO9 posted a video about a movie entitled "Is the Ending to Minority Report One Giant Deception?" It theorizes that everything that happens after Anderton is apprehended for Leo Crow and Danny Whitwer's murders, and he's haloed, is not real. It's all a dream that's happening in his mind as he's still in the stasis.
Because everything you want to happen happens. It's like a dream come true.
My thing there is though, why is he having memories of scenes of parts he's not in? Like, why is he seeing the Lamar Burgess and his wife's conversation?
It's a dream. It's all a dream.
I think that's bullshit. So anyway,
I don't think it's real either. I think the movie would have told you if it was a
right. I think if Spielberg's not the director, it's going to make questions. If it's Christopher Nolan, but no,
maybe
I take that back. No, because Christopher Nolan
he'd answer if there'd be a hint
your questions.
There.
Yeah,
but
I take that back.
I think it's an interesting theory.
Sure,
but that's all it is.
I think it's a clickbait theory.
Yeah, but basically, it's an interesting one. It's a well thought out one, but it's still just a stupid theory.
Right. All right. So, Butler, why don't you tell everyone where they can find us?
All right. You can find us on ForgottenCinemaPodcast.com or ForgottenEntertainment.com because we are part of the Forgotten Entertainment family. While you're there, check out all the other great podcasts and videos we have for your listening and viewing pleasure. We're also on all the social medias, all the different podcast platforms. And you can find us on Facebook in the lobby, Forgotten Cinema's in the lobby, where you can tell us all about how you don't think Minority Report's a forgotten film. Although if you're listening up to this point, then you've already heard us say why Minority Report's a forgotten film because no one talks about it as much. So go ahead, tell us how much you liked it, or tell us how much you don't like Spielberg, and then Field will find your address and he will come find you.
I won't find you. I'll come. We will sit
Bob,
down.
Strikes Back.
We will sit down and you will show me who you think is a great director. We'll watch that film, and then we will sit down and I will show you a Spielberg film, and then we will discuss the difference.
No, it's gonna be like Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, where you get the list of all the haters and you go door to door.
No, I respect everyone's opinion about movies. It's fine. I'm a big Spielberg fan, and if you're not, that's fine. You don't have to. It's not a big deal. I'll still be your friend. It's okay.
I don't think you would be.
We won't be close friends. We'll just be friends. We'll be acquaintance friends.
We'll be acquaintance.
Join us next week as season 14 kicks off. We're not going that far. We're going back to 2017. We're going to do the action film Atomic Blonde. Mm-hmm. This has been on our list for a while.
This is top 5 on our list.
Yeah.
Not like in terms of like, we really wanted, just one of the first ones we thought.
It was one of the films that I really liked, and I liked. I think I kept seeing clips of it, and I was like, I kind of dig this film, and no one really kind of came and went.
It had a lot of hype, and then that hype just kind of went poof.
It kind of was just like here and gone. I'm like, it wasn't that bad. Why are we not talking about it? So we're doing that next week. Atomic Blonde. I guess I don't know. Everyone have a great week. I don't know when you're listening to this, so I don't know. Hope your summer's going well. I'm Mike Field.
I'm Mike Butler,
and this has been Forgotten Cinema.
Remember, guys, everybody runs.
Watch Munich.
Attention nerdy nights, join Flo, Anders, and me, Colleen, at the well-rounded table for Bohemian Geek Studies, where we take extremely dorky dives into our favorite fandoms.
From that Star Wars galaxy far, far away to Outlander's Scottish Highlands, we consume it all.
Listen along with us each week as we explore the stories that mean so much to us. Bohemian Geek Studies is available wherever you get your podcasts and is proudly part of the Forgotten Entertainment family. entertainment family, entertainment